What do the Miami Hurricanes have to do on Saturday night to get a victory against Georgia Tech? Here's our keys to the game.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday. We made it to the weekend. And on Saturday night, not only is it coming off a bye week, which felt like a month-long bye week, it's been forever since the Hurricanes have played. It's a night game at home, and it's the ACC opener against Georgia Tech. This episode of Locked On Canes is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, longtime South Florida sports radio vet, and contributor to allhurricanes.com. Thank you to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen each and every day. Hurricanes are 20-point favorites against Georgia Tech. I would like to think, and based on conversations we've had with players and coaches this week, I do believe the Hurricanes are taking this matchup very, very seriously. They're not looking ahead to North Carolina, and hopefully they've used the bye week constructively. We will get to that, more on that in a minute, because I know historically Miami has not been good coming off of bye weeks. But let's dive into our 5 keys to the game, because yes, this is a Georgia Tech team that just lost at home to Bowling Green. That was bad. But they also beat Wake Forest the week prior, and they looked competitive against Louisville, good team earlier on this season. So my number one key for the Canes to get that dub tomorrow night, run the football. Now, defensively for Georgia Tech, there are only 2 teams in America with a worse rushing defense than the Rambling Wreck. And neither of those 2 teams that are worse than them play in the Power 5. So they are the worst Power 5 team in the country in stopping the run, 128th in the country overall. Meanwhile, Hurricanes have a top 10 rushing offense, 9th in the country. And you saw them unleash against Temple with 323 rushing yards in that bad weather game a couple of weeks ago. Yes, Georgia Tech is trying to make efforts to tweak their defense and find a spark. They just demoted their previous defensive coordinator and promoted Kevin Scherer to DC this week. You can change coordinators, but in the matter of a week, you obviously cannot change your personnel. So they may try to give Miami some different looks. You still got the same run defenders who haven't been doing their jobs earlier this year. So I'm really putting a heavy onus on Miami's offensive line to set the tone for this game. Javion Cohen, Jalen Rivers, Matt Lee, Inez Cooper, Francis Maui-Noah. These guys need to keep doing what they've been doing all year, and that's moving bodies, opening up running lanes. And then we'll see what combination of the 4 or 5-headed backfield we see from Miami. Is A.J. Allen going to get some game time? I'm of the understanding that the reason why he didn't play against Temple was he had some kind of an illness, and he should be back full go. That's what Shannon Dawson said earlier this week. Henry Parrish has been playing fantastic. Don Chaney has looked really good. Mark Fletcher, true freshman, is out there knocking dudes over. Put him on a stretcher, Fletcher. So I do expect Miami's rushing offense to find some success in this game against a team that, quite frankly, has completely failed in stopping the run. And that's where Miami's got to set the tone, right? Hopefully you're not even facing a lot of third downs in this game, but when you do, hopefully your running game is setting up some third and shorts, third and manageables. And when you can run the football successfully and consistently, that's a great way to wear down a defense, number one, and use the clock and the pace of the game to your advantage, number 2, because you can really dictate the pace of the game when you can run the football. And I think that's something Miami can establish. Key number 2 for me, and I thought of this immediately because one of the reasons why Miami beat up Georgia Tech on the road last year was how dominant they were turning the football over. Takeaways from Miami's defense. Cam Kinchins had 3 interceptions against different Georgia Tech quarterback last year, but he had 3 INTs last year. So key number 2 for me. win the turnover margin. Miami is actually top 20 in the country with a +4 turnover margin so far, but they've left a lot of meat on the bone here, guys. Now, offensively, Miami's taking care of the football because they've only committed 3 turnovers so far. Defensively, I'm actually surprised Miami has only forced 7 turnovers so far in 4 games, with, 3 of those games being against teams you were supposed to beat, right? Cam Kinchins being back in the secondary, he's healthy again. That's certainly going to help. Again, he's the guy who had 3 INTs in that one game last year. Cam has only played in 2 games so far this season. He's got 1 interception so far. Corey Couch had a pair against Temple. He's already got 3 interceptions on the year. And if Miami keeps tackling the way that they've been tackling earlier on this year, hopefully you can force some fumbles as well. So Miami can really take the wind out of Georgia Tech's sails if they can perform well in the turnover margin. Now, key number 3. This is one for Miami's defense. Make the Yellow Jackets offense one-dimensional. Okay? Now, running the football, Georgia Tech is okay, but they average out kind of bang average in running the ball. 55th in the country with rushing offense, but they do have some talent in their backfield. I like their top running back, Jamal Haynes. That's someone Miami needs to shut down. And this is something Miami should be up to the task for this, folks. Hurricanes so far this year have the top rushing defense in America, only giving up 48 yards per game, okay? So if you can make Georgia Tech one-dimensional, yes, they've got a quarterback who's playing surprisingly well, because I watched this Haynes King, obviously highly touted out of high school because he was, recruited by Texas A&M, who's really recruited well in recent years. But watching Haynes King at Texas A&M, he wasn't it there. He's looked really good so far at Georgia Tech. He's added a lot of experience into their quarterback room. He's having a nice season so far, is Haynes King. They have the 17th ranked passing offense in the country, but he cannot beat Miami by himself if his team can't run the football, right? If you're setting up for 3rd and 10s, 3rd and 8 on every drive, Miami's pass rush is going to be teeing off on him and making him uncomfortable, forcing those turnovers we talked about. So if you can shut down Georgia Tech's running game, which is something the Hurricanes have done to every team that they've faced so far, Haynes King, who's getting a lot of deserved praise so far because he's off to a nice start to the season, you can really rattle this dude tomorrow night. You really, really can. I mean, Miami made a very good quarterback in Connor Wegman look kind of average when they played Texas A&M a few weeks ago. You can do that to the former Texas A&M quarterback in this game. We got 2 more keys to the game I want to go over. Got an interesting media note on this game. One of the most prominent media personalities in America is going to be attending this game at the U tomorrow night, which is like, all right, finally, Miami's getting a little bit of national attention. Maybe ESPN is not completely sleeping on the Canes the way that we thought they were. We're going to talk about how Miami has been able to establish balance on offense so far this year, because that's been a big part of the Hurricanes' success, and it's a big reason why we are so bullish on the job that Shannon Dawson has been doing so far. So, as we like to say, we're only getting started on this Friday. You want to keep it locked right here to Locked On Canes. Folks, if you're a small business owner, you know these days every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available, and that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. You add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile and spread the word that you're hiring. People will see it, believe me. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen today. And for the everydayers, you want to take that everydayer experience to the next level? Sign up for our exclusive SMS texting community through Subtext. You get text messages directly from my phone to yours with recruiting scoops, breaking news, show updates, questions and answers. We can talk one-on-one on there. Try it free for 14 days, clicking the link in the show description below. Then if you like it, you can opt in for $4.99 a month. We try to give you a lot of added value on there. All right, so we've had our first 3 keys to the game. Run the football, win the turnover margin. Number 3 was make the Yellow Jackets offense one-dimensional, because if you force Haynes King to beat you, he may make some throws. They're not going to win the game that way. Key number 4 for me, I don't know, man, maybe I could have let off with this, because when we spoke with Mario Cristobal on Monday, this is what he sounded probably the most passionate about when it comes to the things that Miami hasn't done so well this year. So our 4th key is cut down on the penalties. You have to. Hurricanes are 113th in the country in penalties. Inexcusable. You're giving free yardage to your opponents, right? And I know that, like, sometimes Canes fans, when you see, like, a little bit of extra aggression after a play, you're like, aggression, we let 15-yard flag, but I love the fighting spirit of the team. You need to be careful. I know you can get emotionally jacked up, the adrenaline and stuff, and it's not just the personal fouls. I mean, you try to cut down on those, but it's also the false starts, the procedural penalties, holdings, things like that. There's no excuse for being 113th in America. Whether you're talking aggression penalties or procedural penalties, you need to cut down on all of it. You need this offense and defense to be a well-oiled machine. Do not give free yardage to your opponents, because I bring it up because it's something Miami has been bad in so far. Like, you're 4-0 despite the fact that you're one of the nation's worst when it comes to penalties and penalty yardage given up. All right. Key number 5. Ooh, this has been talked about all week long. Every player who has spoken this week has been asked about it. Every coach has addressed it. Do not overlook your opponent. Now, I don't expect this to be an issue tomorrow, but I have to bring it up because historically the Canes do not play well coming out of the bye week, right? We've seen it time and time and time again, even going back to, better days when Miami was a national powerhouse. We were talking about that with the truth teller, Bruce Warner, earlier this week, that there have been times when, even when Miami was like on top of the college football mountain, they would struggle sometimes coming out of the bye week. I feel like they've used this time constructively. They've still been practicing hard, okay? So it's not as if Mario Cristobal got the team together after the Temple win, and it's like, all right, guys, I'm going to Fiji for a couple weeks. I'll see you later. No, they were still practicing. They were doing a lot of self-scouting. So if anything, you could see the bye week as an opportunity to watch a lot of extra film, figure out what are we doing wrong and how can we get a little sharper. Not to mention, guys, for as good as Miami's offense and defense have looked so far this year, let's not forget new coordinators, new schemes on both sides of the football. They have executed exceptionally well, despite the fact that both sides of the football have had to learn new playbooks. So you know what? During the bye week, I would imagine they've been able to expand those playbooks a little bit, right? I mean, I can't speak as much for the defense, but I know offensively, I don't think we've seen more than really, I don't know, maybe a little bit more than the tip of the iceberg. We haven't seen like the meaty part of it, like the part of the iceberg that sunk the Titanic. We haven't seen all that yet. Like, there's still a lot more iceberg that we can still see in Miami's offense. So hopefully they've been able to install and get comfortable with some extra plays. A couple of things I'd like to see offensively, more receptions out of the backfield and more receptions from the tight ends. A couple of injury notes there. I mentioned Cam Kinchin's definitely going to be back this week. That has been 1,000% confirmed for the defense. On offense, I guess we're kind of 50-50 on Elijah Arroyo, who's would be Miami's probably most well-rounded right now tight end, right? I think Riley Williams will get there. He's just young. But Elijah Arroyo, if Elijah is ready to make his season debut tomorrow night, and he might be, that can give you another dimension when it comes to tight ends being part of the passing game. The tight ends have done exceptionally well blocking so far, but have been pretty limited so far in the passing game. And I want to go back to something because I talked about, winning the turnover margin is one of the keys. This is one of the really cool things that Shannon Dawson, the offensive coordinator, said on Monday when we spoke to him. So one of the things that they've been doing, during practice, they take, video of everybody. They got a lot of camera angles, a lot of photographs being taken. And when Shannon Dawson and his staff and the analysts, because Miami has a lot of analysts working for the team, when they go through that footage, if they see a practice rep where one of their players is showing poor ball security, maybe you're being a little lackadaisical, a little haphazard with the football, they're going to take that snapshot and they're going to email it to that player. So that player is going to wake up the next morning and, hey, you got a special email from Shannon Dawson. Hold on to the freaking football. I don't know if that's what he actually writes in the email, but when Shannon Dawson sees someone using poor ball security in practice and it shows up on film or photograph, he's going to send that image to the player. So they're going to have to think about that. So I like accountability, technology, analytics. I love all of that. And so hopefully this is all the stuff that is going to make sure Miami does not overlook any opponent, because listen, none of these guys are talking about North Carolina or Clemson coming up. They are focused completely on Georgia Tech. They're showing Georgia Tech respect. I want to see that on the field on Saturday night. Okay. And listen, I know that I don't want our players or coaches looking ahead to North Carolina, but I do have to say something about North Carolina, who Miami plays on the road the following week, because North Carolina got some big news yesterday. Their potentially star wide receiver, Tez Walker, has finally been cleared to play. This is what Pete Thamel tweeted out yesterday. Huge news from the NCAA. Tez Walker is eligible for the Tar Heels now this year, effective immediately. Quote, this is the NCAA quote. Our staff determined the new information qualifies Walker for a transfer waiver. The information had not been made available by UNC previously, despite the school's multiple chances to do so. And so, okay, I'm happy for Tez because he should have been cleared immediately. At the same time, it's like the timing's pretty convenient because, they got Miami coming up in 8 days from now. All right. So he's going to be able to play. I think UNC, if I'm not mistaken, has Syracuse this week. So he'll be able to play against Syracuse, and then he'll be able to play against Miami the following week. So that's going to be another challenge, right? If I can look ahead to the North Carolina game, Tez Walker finally being cleared to play. And by the NCAA, they're such clowns because after all that, they tried to blame it on UNC by, they didn't give us certain. And UNC has tried to get this kid cleared like 8-9 times prior to this week. You don't think they were giving you all the information, but the NCAA wanted to make UNC look bad, not them. NCAA, you still look really, really bad. Okay. By the way, here's an interesting media note for the game. Maybe this will make you a little more excited to go out there and watch the pregame festivities. You know who's going to be at the game on TV covering it? Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith. This was tweeted out yesterday by the ACC Network. ESPN Stephen A. Smith will join ACC Network's ACC Huddle pregame show at Hard Rock Stadium for coverage of Canes football against Georgia Tech. You know what? I like that. Now, for Stephen A., he might have just decided, like, I've been at Colorado pretty much every week. I'm tired of the mountains. It's getting a little cooler out there up north. I want to come down to the beach. But at the same time, you guys know that I know a lot of you are like, us against the world. I don't want any coverage. I want to get disrespected by the media so we can use that. I like to have some coverage for Miami. I like it when the national pundits are taking notice of what Miami is doing. I think it's cool that Stephen A. Smith is coming to the game, right? And if ESPN felt like that's where they wanted to send him this week, I think that's a good sign. So, and by the way, I am also going to be out at Hard Rock Stadium pregame because I'm filling in on the I always do the postgame shows on WQAM. I'm doing pregame this week as well. So from 4:00 on, I'm going to be, I think, in front of the right next to the team store at Hard Rock Stadium is where we broadcast live. I'm going to be doing the pregame from 4 till 8 p.m. till the game starts out in front of Hard Rock Stadium. So stop by and say hi to me, and former Miami Hurricane Brian Monroe is going to be my broadcast partner out there. Don Bailey Jr., Joe Zagacki, and others will be stopping by as well. All right, I want to answer some of you guys' questions when we come back. We get a question about Miami's offensive line. They've been so good so far this year. Questions about, Tyler Harrell. Are we going to get him more involved? So, man, still got a lot to come, my friends. Keep it locked right here to Locked On Canes. Hope you're keeping it locked to FanDuel. As I mentioned, if you think Miami's going to win in a blowout tomorrow night, you can take Miami minus 20. That is right there to be had on FanDuel, and you can snap into all the NFL action this weekend with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders. Player props are so much fun, and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube. All right, so you guys have been sending me more questions on our subtext channel. If you want to sign up and try our subtext community, try it free for 14 days. Click the link in the show description below. If you like it, you can opt in for $4.99 a month. We give you a lot of added value on there. Breaking news, recruiting scoops, show previews, all sorts of good stuff. All right, we get this question from Ardrey from Pensacola, who says, with the offensive line performing the way it is, what are we going to do about Zion Nelson? Do you believe that we should attempt to redshirt Zion? Okay, so Zion Nelson, we keep getting some, cautiously positive updates about his health, the Hurricanes left tackle, that, at some point this season, I would think, if not, the next couple of weeks, he should be ready to play again. Now, with his situation, obviously he missed almost all of last year injured. He is an upperclassman. I don't know, nor will I pretend to know, what the red shirt or medical red shirt situation or protocol could be for him. I can't speak on that. I don't want to speculate on it. But let me say this. If Zion Nelson were to be completely healthy right now, you can't just put him right back into the starting lineup. Like, how could you? Jalen Rivers has been playing so well. That offensive line as a unit has been playing so well. I don't see really any reason or any opening to disrupt the chemistry and start playing a different guy just for the sake of playing him. So, if Zion is or will be soon completely healthy, maybe he becomes like your first guy off the bench if you need any sort of, offensive tackle rotation. But prior to the season starting, I said, hey, if he's completely healthy before the season started, that is, Zion Nelson to me would be, your best option at left tackle. But now that we've played 4 games without him and Rivers has been so good and the offensive line, they've come to an understanding, all 5 players together. You can't just insert a new guy for the sake of doing that. So it is what it is. We'll see how the situation plays out. But I don't want to speculate or guess on what, his medical redshirt situation would be. I just don't have enough information on that. We get a question from A. from the O, who says, hey, what are your thoughts on Tyler Harrell not getting as many snaps as we thought? We heard his explosiveness and playmaking ability in camp, but haven't seen much of him this season, especially with how the staff and fans have raved about going vertical. Honestly, I think more opportunities, the longer things go, the more opportunities people like Tyler Harrell and Isaiah Horton, who has played a little bit, had a long touchdown against Texas A&M. Hopefully Shamar Kirk, who I really, really like. Ray Joseph, Robbie Washington, Brashard Smith. I'd like to see him get more opportunities. Folks, the longer the season goes, now you've got an 8-week straight stretch, 9 if you can get to the ACC championship game. tough games every week, no more bye weeks left. Shannon Dawson said it to me on Monday. I asked him about more receivers getting into games, and he said that, yeah, over the course of the year, we're going to have to be spreading the football around a lot more, and more guys are going to be getting in games. Because guess what? As we enter this long stretch of the season, there's going to be some fatigue and, knock on wood, hopefully not, but, potentially some, minor injuries here and there. And I think more receivers are going to get on the field. So right now, Miami has been really reliant on their top 3 receivers, and why not with how good they've been playing, right? But, we could see more opportunities for guys like Tyler Harrell to get game time. So don't be surprised if Harrell has some opportunities, if not breakout moments, within the next few weeks to kind of live up to the hype that we all, have been talking about with this 4.24 speed. This is a question from the 407. I don't have the name for this person for some reason. What is that? Orlando, who says, hey, are you surprised that our longest run is from Tyler Van Dyke? I wonder when or who will explode, he says. That is surprising. What was it? A 37-yarder, 39-yarder from TVD, who probably could have gone a little farther, but at a certain point, he kind of got bored and just went out of bounds at the end of that run. With how well Miami have run the football, top 10 rushing offense. Yes, I'm very surprised that none of those running backs have broken off for, 40, 50, 60-yard run yet. I think that's going to come, okay? And you had mentioned, the person who asked that question had mentioned, I expect that maybe Chris Johnson could be the guy to break out. It could be any of them, okay? Don't be surprised if it's Fletcher. Don't be surprised if it's A.J. Allen, because A.J. Allen, when I was watching him in fall camp and in the Canes Fest scrimmage, that was the guy who was breaking off most of the really long runs. So maybe A.J. Allen could be the guy who breaks off the first 60-yard breakout touchdown run. But I am surprised that none of Miami's running backs have the longest run so far. Let's see. We get a question from Andy who says, hey, from these remaining tough games against Florida State, North Carolina, Clemson, how do you think we will do? 3-0, 2-1, 1-2, 0-3. Okay. Andy, I did allow myself to make mention of North Carolina because Tez Walker's been cleared to play, and that's something worth noting heading into next week. But I will not indulge your question about, how Miami's going to do against North Carolina, Florida State, and Clemson. I'm going to pass on that one, okay? Because at a certain point, I don't want Mario Cristobal to be mad at me for looking too far ahead and for drinking too much of the Kool-Aid. So I will not address how Miami's going to do in those 3 games until we get through this one. How about that? We'll see what happens. Is Miami going to beat Georgia Tech? I hope so. I think so. Is Miami going to look good doing it? All right, before we run, I do want to give you my score prediction, okay? I'm going to go 49-20 Miami. I think Georgia Tech is going to get into the end zone a couple of times because I do think that Haynes King is going to hit a couple of big passing plays. They're going to have a couple of drives with explosive plays. I don't think they're going to be able to run the football at all, and that's going to be why they're going to have a hard time scoring more than 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals. Whereas for Miami, Shannon Dawson is going to want to maintain balance because that's just how he operates. He's not going to abandon the pass, even if the run is working. So I do think Miami is going to hit some big plays through the air. And I hope that they do because you got some of the top wide receivers in the country, recruits who are going to be watching you, like Jeremiah Smith and Nikar and some of the top 20, 25 players as well at that position. So you want to see Miami light it up down the field a little bit as well. I think the Canes are going to score 7 touchdowns tomorrow night. I'm going for a 49-20 dominant win. I hope I'm right. We will talk to you guys again. We'll talk to you Sunday. We'll do a post-game wrap-up episode. We'll talk about, as our guy Coach Hayes likes to say, the good, bad, and the ugly, or maybe the good, the great, and the awesome is maybe what will, depending on how Miami looks tomorrow night. So huge thank you and shout out for making Locked On Canes your first listen today. We'll talk to you again next time on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.